Today's episode is brought to you by
My masterpiece. It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, Blevins. Joining me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. I just want to assure everybody that only Blevins is dead inside with no hype. And it's not actually that he's dead inside with no hype. It's that his voice has died from
Yes.
casting too many card games this weekend.
Yeah.
So that's why that was easily the least exciting intro to the High Noon podcast you ever heard.
Yeah. We'll just preface this with I'm breaking my vocal rest of today to do the show. So rain, sleet, snow, hail, blown out voice. I'm still going to be here. I'm really what I'm doing is I'm auditioning to be on NPR. So I'm just keeping it as monotone as possible. But in reality, I am going to be talking a lot less than normal this week because it is physically painful for me to do so, and I don't want to blow my voice out because I have multiple other shows to do this weekend or this week and all that good stuff. But it's an exciting.
The show you co-host with me comes first, so I'll be doing my best to throw you questions the entire time and ruin your week.
It physically does come first in the week, yes.
That doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me at all if you can't talk from Tuesday through Friday. So.
True.
No, in all seriousness though, I'll just kind of take the housekeeping over. It'll be a little bit more. We didn't discuss me doing this. I'm just going to do it to give you a couple minutes. Yeah, since we had some back and forth there. Blevins, do we know what's going on with foul play with the Corona? I know Hebe had his PC problems.
Yeah, I think once Hebe and Teppo are back in sort of the swing of things, I think we're gonna be back on schedule. As far as I've heard, there hasn't been any stoppages on the platform side. So until as long as that is still up and going, we'll be getting foul play back as soon as the hosts are ready. But I know obviously it goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway. Real life commitments and whatnot come first. So once they're ready to be back and start talking about some fantasy Overwatch, we will be plugging foul play, and it'll be back in your feeds.
The advice doesn't have to stop though. Head over to the Discord, discord.me/High Noon Podcast, and you can just at them and bug them with your fantasy questions.
True.
Get your answers in that way. Blackwatch Report, as always, continues on. A new episode will be coming out this week. YouTube videos, we talked about them a little bit last week. We're getting the VODs at the same clip as before. I can't get one out this week due to some personal things, but those should be coming back sooner rather than later. Blevins, you this past week did 1,700 podcasts and recorded some Runeterra tournament this weekend as well. Yeah. Check out his Twitter for that. Anything to add? I'm just trying to help.
I think in 2 days, I casted for 22 hours. That's not an exaggeration. I think that's actually what the number is. It was I will say, pro tip, don't do that. But that just, it happened. So sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But it's been a crazy last couple of weeks. Just been putting out content and all that good stuff. I know, Death, you guys have been in the Discord just playing games. It seems like Overwatch has really been a lot of fun lately.
I've been having an absolute blast with the hero pools as far as what it does to comp each week. It forces some of that variety that was really missing before. Mm-hmm. I really, outside of the time when they banned Anna and Moira together, I thought that created kind of a unfun metagame for the
Yeah.
week, and I wasn't super pumped. But that was kind of a little bit experimental that they hit 2 supports like that. I don't know that they'll be going back and doing that again, especially since I think it was pretty universally not like that much. But yeah, otherwise, the hero pools have been an absolute blast. Really enjoyed getting some games in on those. Been playing on my main. I've been 2 games from getting back to masters on my tank role about 6 or 7 times now so far this season. So haven't gotten closer than 2 games out, but hoping for that before the season does end. And yeah, we've been playing on the actual High Noon Discord as well, myself, and then the Blackwatch guys, Thorn and Kyle, and Ty, Thorn's son, and we had some viewers step in. Some of my six stacks have come down to help smooth things out, and by all means, keep an eye out for us playing again soon. There was just a patch to the game as well, so we don't really go over the patch notes too in depth because it takes 3 weeks for them to hit, 2 or 3 weeks for them to hit Overwatch League anyways. And honestly, the hero pools are more of a factor to the upcoming meta, I think, than anything else is. But some great Ashe and Genji buffs coming up that I think will do a lot to affect their viability. Some great Mei nerfs that I think do a lot of work to promote a better play style on Mei that's more fun to watch. She basically can left click less and right click more with the way her ammo is used and distributed now. So yeah, it's less of a cost to use the right click, and she has less ammo in the clip basically, which affects how long you can hold down left click. So I think that's all really positive. A little bit sad about the Reinhardt steadfast change, but yeah, nonetheless, I'm sure we'll be playing some games on that patch since that dropped today, maybe even after the show or a little later. We usually talk a little bit to Thorn or Kyle before we get a group going just to see if it's going to be possible, but it's been a little bit, so yeah, it should be happening soon. If you've not six stacked in there, like Kyle was to the point of it wasn't installed in his computer, and he's like, I can't see what's getting me back into it. And then me and Thorn were talking about we needed people. He wasn't doing anything. He's got good internet, so he installed it real fast. And then we filled the six stack, and it's like he's like, it's unbelievable how fun this game is again when you're six stacking. And I saw a tweet, somebody said, absolutely no game that's out right now can compete with how fun Overwatch can be in the game when everybody's knows what they're doing. Everybody's on roles that make sense for them and knows how to play their heroes and trying really hard. And that happens about once a season. And that's, there was the downside to the tweet as well, right? It happens a lot more when you six stack and pick your group and play in that way. And I really encourage people that don't too. Play groups like the ones we're kind of forming in the Discord can do that. You can join teams, but you don't have to be trying to make it an open division to throw an Overwatch team together. I promise you'll have more fun. And if you don't believe me, well, let me prove it to you. Join us when you see our group in Discord next. But yeah, so been playing some games there. I got a little bit back into Diablo just because nice. This is the only place I go anymore. So I just wanted to check in on the seasons. They did some new sets. I had some fun checking out that, and I can't express to you guys how itchy I am for Diablo 4. I'm so hyped for that game. I cannot wait. So really excited, and poke my head in on some of the Valorant announcements and stuff like that was going on this week as well. That obviously we got our first real look at that. I'm sure you guys are hearing about it from everywhere. We're not going to go too in depth into that. It's a new game. Assuredly, Blevins has a podcast coming up about it.
I can't confirm or deny that.
He's at least winked at it in some tweets or something like that. So you'll be able to get that. I personally just no interest in that game. The more I see of it, the less I feel like I might enjoy it if I sat down and played it. So I will try it. I'll let you know if it surprises me or anything like that. But we'll keep things Overwatch here for the most part. So.
All I'll say is that I'm trying it for the first time tomorrow, and it's going to dictate a lot of everything. If I hate it, that's fine. I have no reason. I have no obligation to do anything or not to do anything with it. So.
Yeah, I didn't get my access with the drops that were initially going on, and it's fine with me since I don't have the hype. Like, there's so many people so hyped. I
Yeah.
almost felt bad getting access, but at the same time, I want to try it because I do.
Yeah.
If you've heard me in Discord, I make a lot of jokes at it because personally, I just don't get the hype and why it's overblown and whatever. It seems crazy to me, but at the end of the day, I've thought that about a lot of games that turned out to be very fun when I sat down and played them. So yeah, I'll be giving that a shot. I don't know exactly where I was going when I started that sentence, but
I don't
this is
know
where
either. My whole thing is I actually have low key liked CS:GO for a long time, but I've only really ever played gun game and like deathmatch, which is fine because like Overwatch deathmatch and Overwatch gun game, it's just not the same. It's
it's not built for it.
right.
Yeah,
they're
like it's a
two
much better thing on
very different games, and I think Valorant is like I'm not going to even try to find people who are looking to play CS. Like I have some friends that play CS:GO, but it's like they've been playing for 100 years, and it's like it's not going to be close. I can't jump in if they're playing. If they don't want to play the stupid modes that I want to play. So maybe if I play, the one mode or whatever that's out on release for Valorant, maybe I'll like it, and maybe I won't. I don't actually care one way or the other. So
yeah, I haven't. To me, it just looks so much like CS. We might as well get into it a little bit since we're halfway there. It looks so much like CS:GO to me or CS to me, and like I really don't enjoy the pace of that game.
Yeah. It's
so much sitting
very different from Overwatch.
Yes, very, very different. And everybody knows how successful CS is and, all that stuff. So not an indictment on Valorant, just on my enjoyment of
Right. I don't like Animal Crossing, but people absolutely love that game.
Yeah, been going crazy for it.
Yeah.
I do think seeing all like the Overwatch League jerseys and stuff go in. I loved seeing, was it Toronto made portraits of all their players' faces in the game and then like gave out QR codes so people can like hang up a picture of Mr. Logix and I've stuff like that. I love. I will never play Animal Crossing ever.
Even though
but
you're
I
an
still
Isabel main.
Right, yeah, even though I was an Isabel main, that is actually a fact. But yeah, I didn't even know until recently that's where she came from, right? Like I was an Isabel main for a considerable amount of time before I found out she came from Animal Crossing. So yeah, that's to give some insight into my Smash background at least. But yeah, so yeah, we'll be making our own opinions on Valorant, and if either of us are going to do anything with it, you'll hear about that soon. But yeah, back to Overwatch.
Back to Overwatch. We can jump in to a little bit of news. Hip has retired.
Yes, Hip has retired from Overwatch League and the Paris Fuel.
The Paris Fuel?
The Paris Fuel? The Paris Eternal.
I thought that was a joke that I didn't get.
No,
just a Freudian slip.
Just me being me. Yeah, Hip has retired from
spoilers. The teams are fusing together.
And the Paris Eternal. He put out a message to the fans. He just kind of cited, it sounded like, burnout related reasons, essentially. So definitely he was a starter for the team. They obviously played this weekend. They used Gray instead on the flex support and didn't seem to really skip much of a beat. It was against Houston, and despite the Houston upset on them previously, I think most people would say Paris is a cut above Houston there. So we'll have to see exactly how Paris is affected by this going forward. I always kind of thought of Hip and Gray as kind of the same guy as far as their impact on the stage. They did some swaps of them last year, and it didn't really seem super impactful to me. So I think they're likely to be just fine. But obviously, wish Hip well in his future endeavors and wherever he goes. I always never know how to take these retirements from players for a couple different reasons. One, I was raised differently. The thought of retiring and quitting on a team mid-season isn't something I could do, right? If I
Right.
committed to doing something, I'm doing it, and you're getting what I committed to, in regards to the season, right? Like I'm not, I would, it doesn't compute with me. And in fact, there were times growing up I wanted to.
Hmm.
Same thing with my sister, right? Like my sister tried cheerleading and didn't really want to do it and wanted to get out of it. And same thing happened to me with, I want to say it was t-ball. I just
Hmm.
wasn't feeling it, and I
Yeah.
didn't really want to do it anymore, and I didn't want to go. And my dad made me go. He
Right.
wouldn't let us quit these sports. Like, no, you joined a team, you committed to the team, you made the team, you're on it. You've got to
Right.
follow through with your commitments. This is a job. This isn't a sports team or whatever, but it is kind of a sports team at the same time. So it's something to me that is just, it's not an option. So to me, it always surprises me. It seems to come out of left field when it happens.
Yeah.
I don't know, were you kind of raised the same way? Were you allowed to quit sports if you
Um,
wanted to?
so I only ever quit one sport, and I didn't even, I mean, I wanted to quit, but I didn't even ask to quit. It was just like I was young and I was like literally like miserable at all times. And it was affecting like my schoolwork and like all that. So like my parents were like, yeah, if you don't like, they like came up and like, yeah, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. It wasn't even something where I was like actively asking to. It was just like I was miserable all the time. But um, yeah, from a sports team perspective, I did have another point in time where I was like being a drama queen about something and like said I wanted to quit, and they were like, okay, you can quit if you want to, but then you have to get a job. And I'm like, okay, not calling that bluff. So we're back. um, and yeah, no, I'm similar, but I also when I when I think of it like a job, I think of it like you owe nothing to your company.
Absolutely, absolutely. It
So
is it
it's
is a weird cross
it,
between them, right?
it is. Now, we know nothing about the particulars of it, so I'm not gonna try to speculate on that. But if you want to quit your job and you have the means to do it, then I would say go for it, you know. But the
Sure.
team thing, it is definitely murky water for me.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't feel like he wronged the Paris Eternal.
right.
I feel like he wronged Ben Best and Exy and Soon. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like those are the people that to me were like maybe but I don't know. It is a gray area, and I don't mean
Yeah.
it to be an indictment. And it's just, it's the second time we've seen it in Overwatch. The first one being
Yeah.
Stellar last year,
Right.
right? So um yeah, just a little crazy to see. I mean, you do see
Well,
it in traditional sports as well. Sometimes retirements come at strange times or
yeah.
what have you.
I'm just wondering like is it I get burnout and whatnot, but like, is it really that much to just finish out the season? I mean, maybe it is, especially with how it is
Doing it
now.
for burnout to me is weird because I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you think you're burned out playing Overwatch
Right.
for however, wait until you got to sit in a cubicle for 9 hours a day, and like
Yeah.
it's so
It.
they're young kids that have very likely not had that experience, and I don't think
Right.
really know what burnout is.
Right.
To say a game that you used to love and really enjoy playing stopped being fun, and if that
Right.
makes you a little sad, okay. But like walking away from a career in esports because maybe you don't like this patch or something is not what Hip's doing.
Right.
But something that I think can happen in esports in general, and it's just hard on the outside looking in, somebody with a
Hmm.
regular to just swallow and accept.
Yeah.
I'll say
I
that
think
much, but
I think I may or we may have brought this perspective up before.
mhm.
But what I would say if I were giving like personal, like again without knowing the details of it, if Hip came to me and said, "Hey, I'm feeling burned out. Should I quit the team?" I would personally say, "Hey, if he's thinking about like going to school or uh
Yeah.
going for something else." Oh, the camera's messed up again. I'm just gonna let it fly. I don't know why. If this is that or the other thing, I would say you if it were school specifically, I would say you can college is not going anywhere. Colleges will always take your money. You're not
Mhm.
like you're always able to go back to like grad school or um, undergrad or whatever. Like that's not changing. You're always able to. get some sort of other job, right? Like you can always work in a grocery store and go to school. Like that is not a thing that is going to go away. I mean,
Right.
taking out the part about it, we're in a weird global crisis time, but like in normal times, like you're never able to not do that. Your window of opportunity to be at the highest level in any sport, esport or traditional sport or otherwise, is very limited. If you think that, and then maybe hip is just like, oh, I'm retiring from Overwatch to go be a Fortnite streamer or something. Okay, that's a similar thing, and if he has that lined up, good for him. If he's like, well, I'm retiring from Overwatch and I'm just gonna kind of chill for a little bit, and then if I want to come back to Overwatch League, I will. I'm like, that is a decision I would think you might want to think 2 to 5 times on, because it's not at the same level even a little bit. But what I would say is, like, I played basketball for like 12 years of my life, like 12 of the first 17 years of my life, right, or 18 or whatever. And when you're in it and you're playing all the time, yeah, I got burnt out playing basketball. That relates back to the thing I was being a drama queen about. Yeah, I got burnt out, but like, you take it for granted, right? And being an esport boomer now at almost 30, it's like, yeah, I can just go back and play basketball whenever. And it's like, yeah, I technically can, but is a lot more work to get back there. And I'm not going to be what I was when I was 18 or whatever, or 20.
You can put a ball through a hoop again. That doesn't mean you can get it back. Yeah, and I guess
what I will say is I can contend with any of these clowns at any local gym. Okay, I can get back and I will be clowning. I could give me 100 shot. No, okay, give me 2 hours of shooting practice and I'll be back. But that
bold of you to go after gamers' ability to play sports. That's all I'll say. Yeah, no, I think that's the correct tone, and maybe one we should have done a better job imparting the last time we brought it up, and even when I was talking right before you here, is it comes from a place of like, man, we hope they don't regret that,
right?
And like Stellar did regret it and tried to get back in before the season ended, and like I just hope we don't see that from Hip, because it would be difficult to say the least. I don't know that he has the
chops.
I don't know that he's good enough to just command that I'll just come back whenever I want, right?
He's not necessarily saying this either. We're making a scenario up. The other thing I would say that I get entirely, and there's really nothing to be done about it, is that, like, as someone who has been told similar types of things before when I was that young, right? It is very hard to take that advice from someone and internalize and understand the advice that you're being given without having living it yourself, right? Like, I can tell someone like, oh, don't, I'm trying to say something that's not offensive. Don't have a girlfriend in college or something like that. Like, don't, like that is a piece of advice I would give someone if there was a college student and they were like, what's one piece of advice you'd give? I'd say, don't have a girlfriend in college. Don't have like a serious girlfriend in college. They'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, man. It's like, whatever. It's like, okay. I mean, I'm telling this to you from my personal experience, and you won't understand that or internalize it unless you live through it. So take it for what it's worth. But
yeah, everybody just go to RIT like I did.
Right. Right.
It's not actually an all guys school. It's just mostly an all guys school.
Right.
All right. Well, let's move things along here.
Yeah, and actually talk about stuff that's
head into the next segment.
Yes. Let me get that button for you.
It's tournament talk.
Yes. Talk about some matches.
Yeah, boy band Blevins with the lead into the drop. I like it.
I needed to buy a little bit of time.
All right, I'll read these down to save your voice, though. This past weekend, the Toronto Defiant 3-1 to the Washington Justice. The LA Gladiators won 3-0 over the Dallas Fuel. The San Francisco Shock defeated the Valiant 3-1. The Shanghai Dragons 3-0'd Hangzhou Spark. Chengdu Hunters lost 2-3 to the Guangzhou Charge. Paris Eternal upset my boys. 3-1 over the Houston Outlaws. Philly with a dominant 3-0 over Washington. Dallas gets on the W list here this week with a win over the LA Valiant. and Shanghai defeats Chengdu, and Hangzhou defeats Guangzhou. Shanghai was 3-1 over Chengdu. So that's the week that was this past week. It was a strange week this week, as China, there was like a Memorial Day or a day of observance or something.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what happened. But basically there was like a surprise national holiday in China that meant they couldn't play the games at 4 a.m. on Saturday like they normally would. That's Eastern time, by the way, as we always speak in Eastern time. And they actually played them couple hours ago, Blevins, like this morning.
Yeah.
So a great, I think, way to just keep the schedule nimble, right? It didn't impact very much at all from our side of things. So found a way to get in the games for the week. And looking at what happened, San Francisco Shock strike. I mean, San Francisco Shock strike again. Another loss here, just the one game this week, but
they won this week.
Oh, they did win this week. Man, I'm losing my mind.
I'm like, I thought I was losing my mind because I'm like, they had the salty run back and they won.
They did, yeah. They got the win over the LA Valiant. Man, I'm all messed up. Anyways, all right. So San Francisco gets the win against the LA Valiant. I was bringing them up anyways because I wanted to talk about the Valiant here. They're a team that I think has changed a lot, right? We saw them early on in the year, one game, maybe two, right? And then it was it was Gig on main tank, right? And then now they're playing Dreamer on main tank. And it's a weird situation here with the LA Valiant. And I don't know how much of their match against Dallas you got to see. But it's weird to me because I really feel like Dreamer's the better main tank for this team, but they're not seeming to really get the results here. So do you have much of an opinion on who the Valiant should be playing in the?
No, I don't. I didn't catch a lot of that match, but I think Valiant are in an interesting position because they had obviously a big win last week against the Shock, and I think even in the the pre, when we back when we used to be able to go outside, when they played and they in their first matches, they didn't get, I don't remember if they got wins early or if they just put up a good performance early. I think they have been overperforming to what we expected. They were in a lot of people's bottom of the rankings for a lot of people, mostly because they were doing the reset, right? Like, we've got a bunch of new players, we've got a bunch of rookies, we've got a bunch of maybe not unknowns, but lesser knowns. So I think, considering the circumstances, they're doing all right here. Obviously, going 0-2 on the week is not what they wanted, but playing around, it's tough because, again, we see this all the time. We're like, well, this player's just better, but they have scrim results, but then also how much are scrims worth? So it's tough. I mean, I think when we predicted how Los Angeles was going to go, LA Valiant was going to go this season, a lot of it was going to be experimentation. A lot of it was going to be like, hey, they're not the 2020 team. They're the 2021, the 2022 team. That's like, I'm not expecting them to make a run for anything this year, but they should be solidifying these things. So if they're playing a different main tank, if they're playing different players week to week, obviously as an LA Valiant fan, maybe that sucks. But I think in the overall grand scheme of it, it's going to end up being better, and they're going to be able to find out more about what works and what doesn't for their team.
Yeah, and personally, I mean, it was an 0-2 week, but I was, like I said, I think they found their main tank to me, right? Like, Gig was hype. It's a little bit, I mean, maybe he's like a budget bumper in the way that, like, he's maybe just a little over aggressive. I don't know. It's been a while since we've gotten to see Gig, so maybe I'm remembering his play style a little wrong as well, and shouldn't get into too many particulars without watching some tape first. But I don't know. I think I was one of the people that had the Valiant pretty low, and it's great to see them. It was almost universal, right? Somewhere between like 17, 18 and 20. So people seem to have them. So great to see them overperform from that initial expectation. But I think we started to hear some of the scrimbucks leak out in the late preseason, and people were saying, so I think people kind of got their hopes up a bit, that they were going to be more than a bottom feeder, or maybe even a play-in kind of a team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they can't be, but you can't be if you're losing to Dallas on the regular, right? Because they're kind of a team I have penciled in the bottom end of that play-in conversation. Dallas was another team, like we said, they got their first win of the season against LA. And I want to preface this weekend as a whole in the conversation here as saying I didn't really enjoy Overwatch League as much as I have in the past this weekend. The meta was a little stale. It was and very strange to me, right? And everybody seemed to land on the same thing. And it was all predicated on this one idea, right? The first match happened, and I can't remember who it was, which one of the two teams, but they were just like always playing Tor. I think it was Washington.
Thing of beauty.
It was not a thing of beauty. It was fine. And we're trying people doing this. Was it just like one team's weird take on it? And then Surefour puts out a tweet that says, oh, people are playing Torbjorn because it counters Tracer and Sombra. I've been playing Overwatch, Blevins, for a long time. Okay, it's been out a while. And if you want to tell me that Torbjorn is a deterrent for backliners like Tracer and Sombra, okay, I'll buy that. You unstealth as Sombra, you're automatically being shot. You show up as Tracer, you're automatic. I get it. It's a deterrent. It is not a counter to Tracer and Sombra in any way. It's not Brig with her shield bash, auto kill Tracer. That's a counter to something, okay? Throwing turrets around that can be killed is not a hard counter to something. Like I said, a deterrent, fine. But, we can't play... If you want to tell me it counters dive, I believe that, because you can't just jump in on Winston into an overloading Torbjorn with a Reaper standing next to him. I totally get that. That makes sense. But there was no reason to me that everybody just settled on McCree Torbjorn. It didn't make sense. I thought there was absolutely other counter picks and other picks out there that could have worked. And sure, McCree would have put a hard stop to that, and he was banned. So some of the things that police it and get in its way were out of question, and nobody tested it. Nobody wanted, China excluded. They do whatever they want at all times. More on that in a minute. Nobody was testing it, and then we get to the literal last match of the weekend outside of the Chinese ones that were going to happen overnight, and all of a sudden Decay's just not leaving Tracer ever. And the Valiant have the Torbjorn. And guess what? It was completely fine. Decay on Tracer was just able to hard carry the Dallas Fuel. Doha was very strong as well. I thought Gamzu had a really good performance. Note was a little iffy. And then I thought the support line for Dallas is in trouble and continues to be their biggest problem. But I mean, it was the Decay show, and Doha with a bit of an assist. He was an absolute beast in that matchup. And it felt like vengeance to me, right, for kind of my take on the weekend of like, well, this sucks, I don't want to, like, these aren't exciting heroes, and it's not even that they're not exciting. I watched Goats for a whole year and had a good time with it, right? But it was that it felt lazy and unforced that they were into these heroes, and I was really upset that everybody did anything. So shout outs to Arrow and the Dallas Fuel for not just, I don't know, taking the red pill or the blue pill or whatever color pill you're supposed to take. I don't remember which one.
I don't remember which one is which. I just hear it all the
time. They took one of them, and they wanted to do what they thought they could win at, and what worked for them and what fit their players. They were the only team this weekend that I think played in the spirit of what will be a successful hero pool team, and I was a little disappointed in that. And the exception is, of course, the Chinese region. Hexagrams was absolutely spot on, perfectly correct. So was everybody else. Maybe not that it's the best, and I'm not going to say any of these teams are winning anything, but easily the most fun. Watch all of these Chinese matches. They're absolutely great. Very rarely are there stomps. It happens on occasion. Shanghai 3 over Hangzhou this weekend, but Guangzhou was in 2 5-mappers this weekend. Watch both of them because they're an absolute treat and a blast to watch. Make sure you check out the Dallas one. They were doing something a little bit different and innovative. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Aren't we all stuck at home, Blevins? Don't we all have just oodles of time on our hands? Aren't we literally not allowed to leave and go to the gym and do all those things?
Yes, go to the gym. That was what was taking up my time.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe not us, but you can see some of the Overwatch League players work out, and
Yeah.
it just us we're not in the Overwatch League, and that's probably why. The only reason
Yes.
I'm not in the Overwatch League is because I don't work out.
Oh, I was saying the only reason I
That
don't
makes
work
sense.
out is because I'm not in the Overwatch League.
Fair. I guess. Anyways,
Which came
yeah,
first,
I
the
don't know.
chicken or the egg? Neither.
Exactly. The human that scrambled the eggs. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't get the joke. Anyways, yeah. So I just wanted to take a second to give a shout out to Dallas, who I take every opportunity to poke fun at them and make fun of them that I possibly can. It's my job as an Outlaws fan and their rival.
True.
But credit where credit's due. I thought this weekend was a win for the Dallas Fuel and their coaching staff. It was a matchup they on paper should have lost. I do think the Valiant are probably a little bit better than them at the moment. So I think they won it on a coaching decision and on a player performance. So shout outs there. This is kind of a make or break season, I think, for in the minds of Overwatch League and Dallas fans. Whether the Dallas organization agrees with that sentiment or not, we'll find out. But yeah, credit where it's due. Big win there for Dallas, and great job by your coaching staff. Letting them do it.
I think it's the hero pools almost forces these teams to really A, obviously adapt, but B, in a sense, be forced not to adapt entirely, right? That the whole point of these hero pools is to not have a solved in air quotes meta every week, so that you don't know what you're going to be getting into. So you can obviously you can scrim, you can practice, you can make calls, you can make the calls of the coaching staff, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you know what? People are playing this weird Torb thing, and like maybe it's good, but also like sometimes you just give the ball to the shooter, right? Like again using a basketball metaphor, it's like or maybe it's not a metaphor, but sometimes if you have a star player on the other team, you run what's called a box and one, where you're basically like you're playing like a weaker defense with four of your guys, and then you just have one player that is just on the best player, like one-on-one, like paying no attention to the rest of what's going on, and just trying to stop that one guy. And sometimes even when that's happening, it's like, as the team with that star player, you're like, oh well, I guess I can't give the ball to that player. It's like, nope, you just let them run with it because they are that good player. Hey, right. Tracer might be out.
There's a reason they're right. Yeah, there's a reason they're being targeted.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, you know what? It's not like you don't pass them the ball. It's like, you know what, Decay, just pop off, right? And if it doesn't work, maybe we can switch it back. But just being able to give that try, to give that to know, like give the ball the hot hand, right? Like let them run with it. So I like it. I like that we're seeing so much variety of play, and variety not only of play but of strategy with at least some of these teams. It's been very exciting to watch.
And listen, the China meta wasn't unaffected by the hero pool, right? Like there was a lot of where there wasn't this week. So clearly there's something to that, right? Like the May and the McCree was enabling Reaper to do what he wants to do. It was enabling that brawly team composition and play style that, even though I personally didn't think that would be great because I thought you'd want the May and the Brig for that, it found a way to work, obviously. But where was Farah? What about Reaper Torbjorn says I can't play Farah? Farah's not going to work. And we saw Jinmu use it. So like Chengdu's able to pull it out. It wasn't, some teams are going to be able to figure these things out. And it really felt to me like everybody just kind of like hit a scrim, and the teams were trying the brawl style and dive, and kept their tanks were being shredded by the brawling style. And so everybody goes, okay, well, that's what we're going to play. And nobody thought to think like, oh, well, what is that brawl style playing? How can we beat that? Like, sure, that might counter dive, but there's more than two compositions that we can possibly play.
Right.
I don't know. If you're involved in tier 2 in coaching, I have no training. I don't know what I'm talking about. So if I'm completely off base here, hit me up. Let me know. Please do reach out.
Yeah.
I would love to discuss with a coach or how these hero pools are working. And so we don't know the challenges, how they're trying to handle all these things. We don't know what their scrim schedules are, but I just don't care what those answers are either at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because the teams that we see surprise each week, are the teams that do this, that think outside the box, the two compositions that seem to whatever, or there's the first hero pool we saw, two different takes on it, right? We had the double shield and then we had the dive, and the dive was right, and then the double shield teams were adapting to play the dive, and and that was the way it worked, and it just felt like there was one answer for the most part this week until the final game. And maybe that was just scheduling, right? Maybe if Dallas was match 2 of day 1, maybe by day 3 we would have seen Tracer anyway.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. We got to get the innovator teams earlier in the schedule.
Right. Yeah, can we identify them and make them play on Saturday? Force more interesting metas and things. I don't know. It's definitely interesting, but as far as Overwatch League goes, this was my Ana Moira ban, right? The one that hurt me in comp and made me not want to play comp. This one made it not super fun, and you can tell that because I ended up rooting for Dallas by the end of the weekend because they were doing something interesting. And if you've got me rooting for Dallas, you've got me in a bad spot where I don't want to be, unless they're going.
So, okay, one thing we forgot to talk about that we don't need to talk about right this second, but remind me after we're done with this section to talk about the poll, the March Madness poll results.
Sure.
We forgot to talk about that earlier, but I almost wonder, because like I think the reason that a lot of teams are defaulting to like, oh well, we saw this work, let's just run with it, is because they don't have a ton of time. I mean, we talked at the beginning of the season like the tables of how much time and turnaround, and obviously that's changed because we're not traveling every week. Obviously, so they theoretically have more time than we thought they would. But even still, there's a lot of investment, that's made into, a lot of investment that's made into figuring out what you're going to play each week. Like, you don't want to play something that's actively bad. So, yes, you can try to find the optimized strategy, but at the end of the day, you want something that is just not going to be completely god-awful. So when you find that, you just run it. And you have to really go out on a limb to try something else. So I kind of get that. I at least kind of get that mentality a little bit.
The logic's there. Sure, we practiced something, we spent time on it. Do we want it to be in vain? But like I've said it before, maybe that means that you're spending your time poorly throughout the week. If you're focusing on one composition, you theory craft two compositions, you got 3 scrims scheduled before your next match. The first one, you just every other map you try comp A and comp B, and then the next 2 scrims you're perfecting the one that you decided was right. Maybe that's a flawed way to approach it, and not the way you should be planning things and coaching your team. You don't have time to perfect the composition, so why in God's name are you trying, is like essentially what I'm thinking, right? Like talk about what's strong in the meta, what you want to counter, give your players a bank of 4 heroes or something, like okay, this is where we'd like you to be, and make sure they know they can go outside of that in the moment if they're going against something unique or whatever like that. But I think it speaks to, again, we've talked about it a lot, so I won't go crazy in depth, just how the coaching system needs to change, how the day-to-day operations and the plan of attack for organizations, teams, players, coaches, absolutely every single person involved should have changed with the hero pools, and I don't know that that's what happened. And I think we're going to see a lot of teams get exposed throughout the year until they kind of adapt a more fluid plan.
I think we're going to start seeing some teams get really good at that, and other teams maybe be laggards, as they're called, just falling behind. Okay, Death.
There's no T. It's laggards, though.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
No. Well, today I learned. I thought it was laggards. Laggards. That sounds right. Death. We talked about it last week, and we were actually, because we recorded early last week, we didn't get the final results.
Yes.
But we now do have the final results of our High Noon Podcast March Madness Overwatch League fan base voting competition.
I believe we have a drop that we can play to announce that winner.
We sure do. That will play eventually.
The outlaws are coming.
Houston got the W. Again, it's a popularity contest, a fan vote contest,
Yep.
and the Outlaws are well known for a loud, boisterous, and large fan base.
Yep.
So they were able to marshal the Lone Star Vanguards, their Twitter accounts, and everything. They had their Discord. They were into it. The org, the the people involved, the admins, everybody, people were really pumped. Shout outs to the Vancouver Titans, who were their opponent in the finals. They also got very into it.
Yeah.
And it was a very close vote. Honestly, it was great to see the Pacific Division wake up in the votes at all, because they were going to, like, judging just the sheer number of votes. The Atlantic side of the bracket versus the Pacific was drastic, and I really thought the finals was going to be an absolute whitewash for whoever came out on the Atlantic side. But yeah, so congratulations to the Outlaws. Got one win this week. We're going for two next week, but we got the one for now this week.
True. Yeah, it was a really cool event, and I mean, it was just for fun, just see what fan bases came out, and
I literally woke up one day and I'm like, you know what I haven't seen in football in a while? Like a fan vote on fan. Wait a minute, why? It's March. We're doing it.
Yep. Snap it off.
Yeah, it was spur of the moment, and I had a lot of fun with it. Big thanks to all the fan communities that participated, all the teams that interacted. An absolute blast. Look forward again next year.
Yeah, was very cool. Okay, let's move on, and
let's break it down.
We'll start off the breakdown with the hero pool this week. Sombra, Reaper, Diva, and Anna are banned. Anything jump out to you here, Death, with these bans?
Yeah, I think I've got a fairly decent handle on it. I don't see how Dive can survive the loss of Diva and Anna. Nano boosting your Reinhardt is pretty important. Also, you're basically leaving your supports untended. So Anna's ability to sleep and brawl and just be a very good 1v1 hero helps a lot with that. It's possible. I mean, you can always go Ball Winston, and then you can go Lucio Zen, but I just don't see how that would be able to really beat a double shield or a bunker variant, which is what I'm guessing is going to be very strong in meta. I think Ryan Zarya could potentially miss the Anna a little bit too much to see a lot of play. It's certainly possible with Moira. We saw a lot more Moira this weekend than Anna, even though neither of them was banned. So that was an interesting twist that, I don't know, it could potentially bring like a Ryan Zarya kind of a composition to the forefront. But I'm guessing probably Orisa Reinhardt or Orisa Sigma comps. DPS will be some combination of May McCree and Hanzo, maybe with a Doomfist in there, depending on the team, if you've got one that can really pull it off. But yeah, I'm pretty confident. I think we're going to see a lot of May and then Hanzo to go with a double shield variant. That seems to be at least the safe level 1 spot, which, as I mentioned previously, is as far as any of these teams are going to be willing to go. So they'll at least start there in their scrims. Maybe they're able to come up with something. That's half the fun of these hero pools, right? Is anybody can look at them and kind of make a guess like I just did. It's fun when we're wrong, though. And something crazy comes out of them. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. No Diva means a lot. Diva reigns in so many abilities, whether it's Reaper's ultimate or, like just the amount of Zarya's grabs. She just defense matrix eats everything. It's a soft counter for every projectile, every ability, everything. It just does work. So taking that out to me is the biggest X factor, and what can really open up some odd varieties. So
yeah, should be an interesting one. And again, it is the most fun when we're wrong and we just see wackiness, which I can't wait. I hope that we do end up seeing some wackiness. But
yeah, I very rarely hope for my analysis to be way off base, but every single week with hero pools, what I think the meta.
Yep. Okay, let's move on and let's go through these matches for the week because we actually did get the matches in time this week, which is awesome. The matches for next week, that is. So we start off week 10 with Hangzhou versus Chengdu. Death, do you have any pulse on the Chinese matches?
How could you possibly? Shanghai's the best of them, not good enough that they can just beat everybody. There's only been 4 teams, so they've all been playing each other like every single
Right.
so far. This is pretty much a crapshoot. Just talking about the tanks, I'm not going to predict Chengdu is going to be able to pull it off. But if there's a team that's just going to play the ball Winston dive and just do it anyways and not care, it's clearly them. So they always have that puncher's chance to do it. And I didn't think so going into the year, and I really didn't anticipate them being boosted by hero pools. But when you're a team that refuses to play the meta game, do you care if the meta heroes get banned? And that's most of the time going to be what happens.
True.
So their strategies will be the least affected by hero pools, which gives them, I think, a bit of a leveling of the playing field on a week-to-week basis. So yeah, I'm going to put my chips down on Hangzhou here. Say 3-2 because so many of the Chinese matches are going to 5, and they're all super close in power level here, I think. But yeah, I got to give the nod to Hangzhou if I think the meta is going to be bunker and double shield. That's the counter to dive. So even if Chengdu tries it, it should be rough.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with you here. I'm going to go with a 3-2 for Hangzhou, but Chengdu, man, they just show flashes of brilliance. Like they'll go down a match and then they'll just come back and just be crazy. They're able to turn it around at almost any time. Which, I mean, if they can just tighten it up a little bit, hone it in, maybe flip a couple maps here and there, then they're a real contender. But as it stands, yeah, I just go with the consistency here with Hangzhou.
Yeah, and as of now, every single one of the Chinese matches is until we see otherwise. So.
Yeah, it's basically, it's not a parody puzzle, it's a parody I'll just say a parody cluster, and you can fill out the rest of that if you'd like. Next match here is Vancouver Titans versus the Guangzhou Charge. This is the first we've seen of Vancouver in some time, right? I mean, did we?
Yeah, they packed up and went back to Korea. Right. So this is they're there now and they play again. So they're all set up. Great to see. We believe we should be seeing that from Seoul starting next week, or I don't know. We don't have a firm date on that, but just extrapolating based off of how long it took Vancouver, right. I would guess next week. So yeah, great to see. As much as I've been loving watching all the Chinese matches, there was too few teams there. So this is going to be great to spice things up a little bit and maybe ruin it, right? Because if Vancouver comes in and plays the regular meta, better at it than and just winning and dominating, that will force down the Chinese scene and they will settle into that meta game. So don't blow this for Vancouver.
Yeah, Vancouver, play wacky. Get Bumper back.
We need you. Channel your inner Chengdu. This match is, to me, listen, Vancouver's the heavy favorite over all of these teams until I see otherwise, including Shanghai and Seoul. So Vancouver 3-1. Guangzhou can beat anybody. I've really enjoyed watching them play. I can't wait to see Happy get back out there to join Nero. I think they're at their best under those circumstances. But right now, Vancouver is still a top tier elite team, and they're the only ones out there.
What I'll say is Guangzhou can beat anybody.
Absolutely.
And Vancouver is not anybody. They are Vancouver, the Vancouver Titans. Give me Vancouver 3-1 here.
But they're also second match of the year. Been a long time. Rusty, new,
maybe rusty.
Weird to be back home again, right? Like playing, you know. So there's a lot of reasons why Guangzhou is very. But
we could definitely. I mean, it's like San Francisco last week. Like anything can happen, but you're not like no one's predicting that to happen. It did happen, but you're not predicting it, or you shouldn't if you're trying to make good value bets. Next up, Philadelphia Fusion versus the Paris Eternal. Is there any discussion to be had here, or do we just mark this as a Philly 3-1 and move on?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a discussion. If I'm right, and it's Orisa Sigma, right? So to me, the key here is Reinhardt, right? Because Sato's been a beast on the Reinhardt, and I think he looked pretty poor on the Winston, poor to not good. And I'm not going to say bad or going to go get too superlative with my analysis there, because I'm pretty sure they won all the games he played Winston on too. So, I don't know that they're really going to excel and play at their absolute best in a double shield or a bunker composition. They were well set up for it. And again, I think it matters if it's Ryan Orisa versus Sigma Orisa. But I really, really love the Paris Eternals' ability to play the bunker play style. Hanbin might be the best Sigma we have. Obviously, it's a small sample size. Gun to my head, I wouldn't list him, at the top spot on the hero, but he's really high up there, and with what we've seen so far, and I just think the bunker comp really suits them. Assuming Eggsy comes in, we saw that fight play out once before, right? We've seen this matchup before, and it was crazy, crazy close. But Paris got that win, right? So I think you have to look at this as pretty close to a coin flip. These are, I think, two teams that are in that second tier of the league, right? There's the elites, and we might not have fully identified who they are, but I would say both of these teams are probably the top of that second tier,
Sure.
And very close. So yeah, give me Paris here. I'll go 3-2.
Wow. Okay. Well, Death, you called it a coin flip, so we're gonna get one. I'm going with Philly here. I'm going with a 3-1 with Philly. I mean, they have faltered, and like you said, Sato has been good at times and maybe lackluster at others, but I think Philly still is a strong contender here. But we'll go with what do we want? Philly heads. Philly number one here. Paris tails.
I mean, I would prefer Philly to win, so I'd say Philly.
Philly's number one here, so we're going with that's a tails, so which means Death, you're right here. Paris is getting the nod from everyone's second favorite co-host, the coin here. All right, next up we've got Houston versus Boston. We're at inverse NYXL territory here, where Boston needs to do something before they ever get close to being picked as a win.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm going Houston 3-0,
yeah.
And roll your eyes if you want. It's not about Houston. It's about Boston. I think they're that bad. Houston did lose again, but it was against Paris, who we're all pretty sure is a very, very good team. And they were pretty competitive. Muma's Reinhardt was a revelation this weekend, like insanely better than it was before. Not elite, not whatever, plenty of mistakes, but he was hitting huge shatters, made some big plays for them. He really was a highlight for them on a hero that he was an absolute detriment, to the point where I almost wanted to sit down and cry after one of his matches, right? Just like, what happened to my boy Muma? I want my Muma back. It's just, it was bad. And it was like completely flipped on its head this weekend. That means a ton to me, for Houston's just kind of meta resilience, right? Like I talked going into the year, new head coach, all the new players, they were going to be a really slow starter. It just, to me, seemed obvious, and that's exactly what happened, and they're getting better. They lost to Paris in large part, to me, just because the DPS didn't quite pop off, right? Like Reaper's not what Dante does. He was fine, but he wasn't stand out. And Paris had some standout plays there, and Blase, probably the least exciting of his Doomfist performances we've ever seen. Some days you're not hot, what can you do about it? They were also coming off a bit of an extended break. Hopefully they're able to get things rolling, but 19 teams in the league. I would predict a 3-0 Boston, right? So Houston 3-0.
I'll take that as well. One thing we didn't mention, Boston did terminate the contract of Mufin. Again, you want to look into that whole controversy and all that drama, whatnot, just go to Reddit. You can find it. It's there. It is now at a point where it directly affects the team and what is happening in Overwatch League, so we are reporting on it. All the other stuff you can look up yourself and make your judgments and whatnot from there. But let's move on here and talk about Washington versus Dallas.
Oh, Washington. Can't express my disappointment with the whole Washington Florida business, just with both of them sucking, has me so mad. It's really I was sure between one of the two teams we were going to have a competitive Overwatch team, and I think the only way we get there at this point is to combine both rosters together and hire a new coach, because it's just I don't get it. Dallas is a solid team with weaknesses, and right now they've got some players performing very well. They're who I'm picking. Give me them 3-1. Washington's only hope is if I'm absolutely correct about the Hanzo meta, because then Corey gets to go into that and pop off. And if it is Hanzo almost exclusively, then I'm probably and Washington will get the win. But really, other than a Corey pop-off carry performance, I think that's the only way Washington wins a game of Overwatch. And I don't understand it, because Roar's a solid tank. Arc is a very, very good main support. Like, there's talent. Aim Gods, they're flex support. He's very, very good. There's talent up and down this roster, and I don't understand why they're constantly just too uncoordinated or whatever. I don't know what the issue is. I can't identify it, because when I look at them and then I look at their roster and then watch them play, I cannot reconcile the two things together. I've said things like that about other teams. You know, I've said that about when Houston's playing poorly, I say pretty much the exact same thing. But Washington doesn't come out of it. They just continually do it, right? They never even peak. Houston flares up and they punch above their weight class and they surprise you and they do those things, and those are all things Washington should have no problem doing on occasion, and it's just way too rare.
It's happened one stage total is essentially what it's come to
ever. And that was more, I think, like just people, like half the league was bumfuzzled and trying to figure out how to not play goats anymore. And that was probably more of it than anything. And yeah, so I really don't know what's going on with Washington. And I want to use the replay viewer to try to figure it out, because I really just am struggling with it. So maybe since I am not likely to get a video out this week, maybe I'll just stream some VOD reviews or something where we watch Washington. I'll take Dallas though. Like I said, I'll go 3-1. Decay keeps rolling.
Yeah, Dallas is looking decent. Washington, again, just not living up to the hype that they tried to give themselves in that last stage of season 2. I'll give Dallas the W here as well. As we move on into the last few matches here, Chengdu Hunters versus Vancouver Titans. I have to imagine we're going to have a similar story here to what we talked about before. It's got to be a Vancouver victory here, 3-1 or 3-0.
Oh, I'll go 3-0 if you want the 3-1. Man, I hope I'm wrong though, right? Like I just, if there's an upset I want to see more than anything this week, it's definitely this one. I would be super pumped to see Chengdu just tap dance on Vancouver.
I'm all about the Chengdu upsets. That's one of the more entertaining things that we get to see in Overwatch League these days. Next up, we've got Shanghai Dragons versus the Guangzhou Charge. And I know, Death, you mentioned that Shanghai is pretty much above the rest of the field in general in the China sort of division that we have right now. But what do you who are you picking here?
I'm going to pick Shanghai. I'm going to stand by it. This is an obvious flip candidate to me, though. Right now, and after this weekend, we might be saying the same thing about any match with Vancouver in it, that they're just all up for grabs, and it's beautiful chaos and what have you. But Shanghai has some issues. Stand One, I think, is doing a decent job, stepping in at main tank. He looks good. Maybe not stand out great, but he's an average Overwatch League main tank, which is I think a very good starting spot for a new addition to a team, somebody that's fresh into the league. Lip, I thought, looked pretty good on the Sombra, but Sombra's banned, and I don't think he's better than the DM Ding, whoever's better on whatever hero. I still don't know that that's the correct choice, but I do respect that so far they've been very consistent with it, and he's not leaving the stage. They made their choice. They're really giving it a shot. I don't want to harp on it too much. It's not like Lip has been a standout problem or anything like that. He's been a solid, good performing player. They're doing well, but it makes them more beatable than they need to be, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But assuming not a bad game from Lip or anything like that, give me Shanghai 3-1. But somebody tell Izzyaki that when he coalescences on Moira, he can heal his team, because I'm not sure he knows.
Hey,
if somebody could fill that and just add him real fast for me.
Is one of the 2 heroes that I feel comfortable playing with in your at least semi-competitive 6-stacks death. I know a thing or two about Moira, and one of the big unlocks for me was only using it defensively. And sometimes if it's offensive by as a product of that, it's just gravy. But I just treat it as only a heal ability.
It's a heal ability, and when you use it, you position it so you can do both, but you should like never stop healing unless the bars are full, right? And then do what you want, but keep an eye on them. You might need to go back. But yeah, I watched him at least once or twice, big coalescences that I thought could like win the fight, and he's just like flashing lights. I need healing. Give a screen, and he's like moving it to the right, tracking him down.
I love it. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I
love it.
I can't wait to see him back on Zen, where he's super good. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of watching Moira in general, but yeah, that cracked me up. I wanted to mention that. There's some holes in the Shanghai game, even if I'm talking them up a little bit.
For sure. That being said, I do think this is a flip of the week. I'm not going to take the flip. I'm going to go with Shanghai. I'm playing a little bit conservative here, but this is the flip of the week.
Coward.
Yeah. Yeah. I am.
If you're like me, we need all the flips we can, because I don't think I've set my pick'ems yet since the leagues come back. Oops.
Whoopsie. Next death. Man, this is you're finally gonna have to choose between children here. We've got Houston versus Toronto.
I've chosen many times. I'm not even shameful about it. Give me Houston 3-1. It doesn't have to go down that way. Toronto, I think, has looked up a little bit. Beating Washington, though, how hard was I on Washington? To me, that matchup was a battle for 19th. So I'm not super high on Toronto all of a sudden. I think Houston's shown more upward ability than Toronto. Whether they are better on this given day, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I got Houston one rung up the ladder higher than Toronto. So give me Houston 3.
Yeah, I mean, easiest Toronto in my life. Houston garbage, Toronto good. No, in all reality, I am going to pick Houston. Or sorry, I'm going to pick Toronto. I'm seeing you like keep rechanging it, so I want to flip it 3 more times. No, I'm going to go with Toronto 3-1 here. Nope, we're not giving the Houston the 6-0.
Houston 6-0, Blevins. It's in the notes. It's in the notes.
I just read the script I'm given every week, and it for some reason is saying read the script I'm given every. But no, I'm gonna go with Toronto 3-1 here. I do think that these teams, maybe on paper, I mean, this is. I played it conservative the last one. I'm giving a little more optimism to Toronto, and is that me being a homer? Yes, 100%. I've played that. I've laid my cards out face up from the beginning. I've always been a homer. I pick with my heart, not with my brain. Although if I picked with my brain, it'd probably be worse. But yeah, I mean, Toronto, getting again, the hallmarks of a good team are beating the teams that are winning the games that you should, et cetera, et cetera. We've said it for years now. But yes, it's not the hugest feat in the world to beat Washington, but last year we were seeing them lose to teams like Washington when we thought that they should be winning, and then they spiraled down into a not even in any sort of contention for anything type of team in the last 2 stages. So keeping up and not spiraling out is a good thing for Toronto. And I think this would certainly be on paper a play up, and that's how you start jumping tier levels. This is I wouldn't say a placement match, because I think we're at least pretty close into placements here, but this is certainly a jump up a tier, or at least start making that climb up a tier.
For sure.
Yeah, a prover game. Yeah, right the ship sort of game for Toronto here after a good week last week.
But 3-1 Houston for me, 6-0 Houston for Blevins. I'll talk to Soul Drink about getting that unique score inputted in there. I'll make sure he doesn't allow you to be able to enter 5-0 because I wouldn't want you to be able to accurately predict
Right.
New York anymore.
Right.
But
Well, I don't get to predict New York anymore because they don't play. So
that's true. What was the? It wasn't not their pullout game. It was the
no, it was the pullout.
game.
No, it was the pullout game. Or no.
No, they used different words, and I just put the perverted meme into the episode for no reason. Fine with me.
I don't remember.
But anyways,
2 more matches.
I do want to preface this match since it came up recently. I'm going to be rooting for Houston. I won't be at all mad if Toronto wins.
Right.
Like, people that come at me like this, like, you don't understand. I can't lose here. Both of these teams are even like in the same spot. They're like struggling, trying to right the ship. It's not better for one to win. It doesn't like. There's no. I almost don't care. Like, I'm almost too invested to be invested at all.
Right.
But yeah, just to preface it, I'm
right.
fine.
You're
at the end of the
being
game,
a filthy scum trader and not rooting for Toronto. Got it. Okay. You're not rooting for the home team, the team that you can see from if you squint really hard across Lake Ontario, you can see.
I can see the country, but then again, I can see the country the Houston Outlaws are in always, as long as my eyes are open.
Filthy trader scum confirmed. Next, 2 more matches here.
Leave Mecco alone.
Not true though. True. Oh God, my blood just boils.
One was a meme, and now I made it too real. I'm sorry.
It was having a good time thinking about the global pandemic, but now I have to think about that filthy trader Mecco. Let's talk about Philadelphia versus Atlanta here before I just start screaming and actually lose my voice.
Yeah. Man, it feels really weird, but I'm going to pick against Philly again this week. They're going against 2 teams that I think are really well suited for bunker. We've seen it from Atlanta, the way they get to pull in Gator and Hawk, who are playing that in blanking the gauntlet. They were like they've been very, very good at that. Gator was one of the better Sigmas we saw in the playoffs last year, right? Like, this is a team that is built for bunker to me. So assuming I'm correct on that, then I have to assume that Atlanta's going to get the win. But again, in all things considered, I'd put these teams neck and neck right up against each other. So I'm just breaking a tie on what I am assuming the meta will be.
Yeah.
Blevins called something else flip of the week. This one is literally a coin flip, going into it. This one is a great matchup here.
Yeah, I'm actually not picking against Philly twice. And since I already picked Philly to win before, I'm actually going to go with Atlanta here on the 3-1 as well. I still am. I put stock in. I buy stock in Gators Sigma, and if you're right, and we are going to start seeing that, I do think that he does have a standout Sigma. I mean, I think maybe other Sigmas have leveled up since then, but he was just like a head above a lot of Sigmas in the league.
And he's Orissas too. He was pretty sure he was the Orissa when they had the huge Fire Strike combo too. So they've been performing well on almost no matter what the variants are here.
Yep.
I almost don't care if it's Pacpo and Gator or Gator and Hawk. I really don't. I think Atlanta's going to be just fine unless they read the meta wrong, and Philly nails it. So yeah, I don't know. It should be super close, but yeah, we're not even going to be flipping a coin.
No coin flip here, but we'll go into the last match of the week. San Francisco Shock versus LA Gladiators. I'll start it off. There was a hiccup last week for San Francisco. I think they maybe caught their breath a little bit, and they are back on point here. I'm going to go San Francisco 3-1.
You could see the moment I typed my pick into the, you could hear the moment I typed my pick into the notes because Levins got a little shocked. I'm taking the Gladiators here 3. I don't think it was an aberration last weekend. I think they continued to do the same stupid stuff this weekend. It just didn't bite them because of who their opponent was.
Sure.
The Gladiators have been playing very, very well. OG has been a beast on the main tank role. I'm expecting that to continue. Space, obviously, will keep rolling as well. Mirror, if they can get away with Doomfist, Mirror's Doomfist is nice. I've really, really enjoyed watching him play. So and they've got just the largest goose that the Earth has ever seen on their
very
team.
big goose.
That doesn't count for nothing. Give me the Gladiators here 3-1. These are two bangers that to me are coin flips. San Francisco 2 weeks ago, the thought of not picking them would have been crazy. I hate that they're still playing ANS in their compositions, even when it's not like I don't know what they're doing. They're getting too cute. We were worried about them having too many DPS players and being able to manage it before, and then they excelled at goats, so we just stopped assuming it could possibly be a problem, and then here we are. And they've got to use them all, and they seem to be mismanaging it. So I don't know if it's getting ANS up to speed, and if that's the case, I'm fine with it. And it doesn't need to make sense in the match in front of you. You're one of the best teams in the league, so you lost a couple. It's not a big deal. But until I see them go back to it, until I see them start to use their DPS in a way that makes sense to me, I get it. Like, Sinatra's really good Zarya. He's also needed on his, he needs to do his job. True. In my opinion. True. And you have the best off tank in the world, so you that's just my take about Shoyobin, I guess. I don't know. He might not be the best Zarya on your team, but your team is best when he's your off tank.
Right.
When Sinatra is on DBS. So use them for that. I think that's very important for this team going forward.
Good points, but that does mean
also Smurf over Super unless it is Orisa right? Then it'll be both of them.
True. All right, we've got a coin flip here. I'm going with San Francisco, #1. And that is, let's see, I can't see. Ooh, that is San Francisco, #1. The coin agrees with me. San Francisco's taking it over LA Gladiators. Okay, Death. That brings us to the end of the show. I'm going to let you take us out here because I am on the last thread of my vocal cords right now.
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. How do you end the show? I'm usually already in.
That's true. You're usually already gone.
That's
okay. The first step is thank everyone at least 3 different times because I do that. Thank people for listening.
All right, hold on. All right, everybody. I want to thank you so much for tuning into this episode podcast. It was our absolute pleasure to bring you episode 204. We sincerely appreciate that you spent your past hour and a half or so with us, and we just want to thank you for being a member of the High Noon community. Join discord.me/High Noon podcast. Next, step 2.
That was step 2, was make sure you say the Discord. Step 3 is
an overachiever.
Yeah, step 3 is say anything, and then step 4 is take us completely out with the thing, and then I press the button.
Anything, and remember, guys, it's
got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Okay, we're going to take a poll here. If you are going to be playing Valorant or want to play Valorant, go in the Discord and just put @KyleWin and use a #1. And if you're not going to be playing, @KyleWin and use a #2.
And immediately after, click High Noon Podcast at the top of the screen and then select leave. No, I'm just kidding.